Millionaire catches Black Hotel Maid speaking Dutch, and what he discovers leaves him speechless. Thomas Whitmore stood in the marble-clad lobby of the Amsterdam Grand Hotel, his Italian leather shoes clicking against polished stone as he paced near the concierge desk. At 58, he had built a pharmaceutical empire worth $800 million, yet tonight felt different, hollow, somehow. The merger he'd flown here to finalize had collapsed spectacularly, leaving him questioning decisions that had once seemed unshakable. His wife had called an hour ago, her voice distant and formal, mentioning divorce papers and separate lives. The opulent surroundings felt like a gilded cage, beautiful but suffocating, filled with whispered conversations in languages he didn't understand. He had always prided himself on being cosmopolitan, yet realized how insulated his wealth had made him from genuine human connection. The hotel buzzed with international guests, diplomats, business leaders, celebrities, all conducting their affairs in a symphony of languages that reminded Thomas of his own linguistic limitations. Despite decades of global business, he had never bothered learning beyond rudimentary phrases in major languages, relying instead on translators and the assumption that English would suffice. Tonight, that limitation felt particularly acute as he overheard complex negotiations and intimate conversations flowing around him in Dutch, French, German, and languages he couldn't even identify. His usual confidence had been replaced by an unfamiliar vulnerability, a sense that he had somehow missed essential aspects of a world he claimed to inhabit. The realization stung more than the failed merger. From the corner of his eye, he noticed the hotel's housekeeping staff moving with quiet efficiency through the lobby, their presence nearly invisible to the wealthy guests they served. These workers navigated the space with practiced grace, understanding that their visibility could disrupt the carefully maintained atmosphere of luxury and exclusivity. Thomas had never given them much thought beyond ensuring his own rooms were properly maintained, viewing them as part of the hotel's service infrastructure rather than as individuals with their own stories. Tonight, however, his heightened emotional state made him more observant, more aware of the human beings who facilitated his comfort while remaining largely unseen. He found himself wondering about their lives, their dreams, their thoughts, questions that had never occurred to him before. Among the staff, one woman caught his attention, not through any dramatic gesture, but through the quiet dignity with which she carried herself. Amara Okafor moved through the lobby with purposeful grace, her housekeeping uniform crisp and professional, her bearing suggesting depths that transcended her role. At 34, she had learned to navigate spaces like this with careful invisibility, understanding the delicate balance required to maintain employment while preserving her sense of self. Her dark skin and service role made her nearly invisible to most guests, a reality she had long accepted as part of survival in a world that rarely looked beyond surface appearances. Yet something in her movements suggested education, refinement, a story more complex than her current circumstances might indicate. Amara approached the reception desk to deliver fresh linens, unaware that her quiet conversation with a Dutch colleague would soon change the trajectory of her evening. She spoke in fluent Dutch, her voice carrying the subtle intonations of someone who had truly mastered the language rather than merely studied it academically. De Gasten en Kamer 504 hebben om extra handoken gevraagd, en ik heb gehoord dat meneer Whitmore problemen heeft met zijn zakenpartners. Misgien moten we extra aandacht besteden aan zijn service vanavond. Her words flowed naturally, discussing guest services with the sophisticated vocabulary of someone comfortable navigating complex professional situations. The conversation revealed not just linguistic competence, but cultural awareness and emotional intelligence that suggested a background far more complex than her current role indicated. Thomas froze mid-stride, his attention captured by the unexpected sophistication of her Dutch. He had spent enough time in Amsterdam on business to recognize when someone spoke the language with native-like fluency versus tourist-level competence. Amara's pronunciation was flawless, her grammar complex, her vocabulary extensive. This wasn't someone who had picked up phrases from guidebooks or language apps. Something deeper was at work here, a story that challenged his assumptions about who belonged in service roles and why. His business instincts, honed through decades of reading people and situations, told him he was witnessing something significant, though he couldn't yet articulate what that might be. The cognitive dissonance was profound and unsettling. Curiosity overrode his usual social distance as Thomas approached the desk, his movement drawing Amara's attention. She switched seamlessly to English, her voice taking on the deferential tone expected in her role. "Good evening, Mr. Whitmore. I trust your stay has been comfortable? Is there anything additional I can arrange for your room tonight?" The transformation was subtle but complete, from the confident professional speaking Dutch to the carefully invisible service worker addressing a wealthy guest. Thomas recognized the performance for what it was, understanding suddenly that he was seeing only the surface of a much deeper story. Her English, he now noticed, carried traces of multiple influences: British precision, American familiarity, and something else he couldn't quite place. "Your Dutch is remarkable," Thomas said quietly, his voice carrying genuine curiosity rather than condescension. "I couldn't help but overhear. That level of fluency is unusual." Amara's response was carefully measured, professional distance maintained even as something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, perhaps, that a guest had noticed, had cared enough to comment. "Thank you, sir. I lived in the Netherlands for several years. Languages have always come naturally to me." Her answer was truthful but incomplete, a carefully constructed boundary that revealed just enough to satisfy curiosity while protecting deeper truths. Thomas sensed there was more to discover, but also recognized the delicate nature of the moment, the power dynamics at play, the risks she faced in any conversation that moved beyond prescribed service interactions. What began as polite inquiry evolved into something more substantial as Thomas found himself genuinely engaged in conversation for the first time in months. Amara spoke of languages with the passion of someone who understood them as doorways to different ways of thinking, different approaches to understanding the world. She mentioned studying linguistics at university, though she didn't specify which one or why those studies had led to hotel housekeeping. Her intelligence was evident in every carefully chosen word, her insights revealing someone who thought deeply about communication, culture, and human connection. Thomas realized he was speaking with someone whose intellect rivaled that of his most accomplished business associates. Yet circumstances had placed her in a role that rendered her nearly invisible to people like him. The conversation deepened as Amara shared her perspective on living between languages and cultures, speaking of identity as something fluid rather than fixed. She had lived in Ghana, studied in London, worked in Amsterdam, and now found herself in this liminal space of service work that allowed her to observe but not fully participate in the lives of international elite. Her observations about cultural differences and business practices were astute, her understanding of global economic dynamics sophisticated. Thomas found himself taking mental notes, recognizing insights that could have value in his own professional world. The irony wasn't lost on him. Here was someone whose perspectives could enhance his business operations, yet social conventions had prevented him from ever discovering her existence. As their exchange continued, Amara revealed fragments of a larger story. A PhD in applied linguistics interrupted by family illness, immigration challenges that had complicated career advancement, and the reality of starting over in countries where her qualifications weren't recognized or valued. She spoke without bitterness, presenting these challenges as simply part of life's complexity rather than sources of resentment. Thomas began to understand the vast gulf between his assumptions about meritocracy and the actual experiences of brilliant individuals whose paths had been complicated by factors beyond their control. Her resilience impressed him more than any business success story he had heard in recent memory. The hotel lobby continued its evening rhythm around them, but for Thomas and Amara, the world had narrowed to this unexpected conversation. Other guests passed by, without noticing the millionaire engaged in deep discussion with housekeeping staff, their social invisibility providing an unexpected privacy. Thomas felt something shifting within him, not just his understanding of Amara's situation, but his comprehension of how much human potential remained hidden within systems designed to maintain comfortable hierarchies. This woman possessed knowledge, insights, and capabilities that could contribute meaningfully to any organization. Yet circumstances had relegated her to work that utilized only a fraction of her abilities. The waste of human potential struck him as both tragic and systematically preventable. Thomas made a decision that surprised even himself, inviting Amara to join him for coffee the following morning to continue their conversation. The invitation was professional but genuine, extending respect that transcended their supposed social positions. Amara accepted with gracious professionalism, though Thomas could see the careful calculation behind her response, weighing opportunity against risk, wondering what this powerful man truly wanted from her. Their meeting the next day took place in the hotel's elegant breakfast room, where other guests glanced curiously at the unusual pairing but said nothing. The conversation that followed was transformative for both participants, revealing depths of understanding and possibility neither had anticipated. During that morning conversation, Thomas learned the full scope of Amara's background, her research on multilingual communication in corporate environments, her uninterrupted doctoral dissertation on linguistic barriers in international business, her extensive experience navigating cultural complexities that his companies regularly struggled with. She had insights about communication patterns, cultural sensitivity, and market adaptation that could address challenges his businesses faced in global expansion. More importantly, she possessed the analytical framework to implement solutions rather than merely identifying problems. Thomas recognized that he had stumbled upon exactly the kind of strategic thinking his organizations needed, hidden within someone society had rendered invisible. The transformation was immediate and profound. Thomas offered Amara a consulting position with his company, beginning with a project analyzing communication effectiveness across his international operations. The role would utilize her linguistic expertise while allowing her to complete her doctoral research, creating a pathway that honored both her capabilities and aspirations. Amara accepted with dignity rather than gratitude, understanding that this was recognition of value rather than charity. Their professional relationship began that week, built on mutual respect and the understanding that excellent minds can emerge from any circumstance. The hotel lobby where they had met became a symbol of unexpected possibility rather than imposed limitation. Within months, Amara's insights had revolutionized communication strategies across Thomas's companies, improving international negotiations and reducing cultural misunderstandings that had previously cost millions in failed partnerships. Her academic work advanced as well, supported by real-world data from global business operations. The collaboration proved beneficial for both parties, but more importantly, it demonstrated the profound waste that occurs when society fails to recognize and nurture human potential wherever it appears. Thomas began implementing hiring practices designed to identify overlooked talent, understanding that his company's future success depended on accessing the full spectrum of human capability rather than limiting recruitment to traditional pipelines. 6 months later, Thomas stood in the same hotel lobby, but everything had changed. Amara now worked from the executive floor, leading a newly created department of global communication strategy that had become a model for other international corporations. Her research had been published in prestigious academic journals, establishing her as a leading voice in applied linguistics and cross-cultural business communication. The transformation was complete, from invisible service worker to recognized expert, her journey highlighting both individual resilience and systemic change. The hotel staff, who remembered her previous role, watched with pride as she returned occasionally, now as an honored guest rather than an employee. The story of their meeting had spread throughout Thomas's business network, inspiring other leaders to examine their own assumptions about talent recognition and development. Several companies had adopted similar programs to identify and nurture overlooked capabilities within their organizations and communities. Universities began partnering with service industry organizations to create pathways for interrupted academic careers. The conversation that began with Dutch language recognition had sparked a broader movement toward inclusive talent development that was reshaping corporate culture across multiple industries. Amara's success had opened doors for others as well. The scholarship program she and Thomas established provided opportunities for service workers to pursue advanced education while maintaining employment. Hotel and restaurant associations began implementing language recognition programs that identified multilingual staff members who could contribute to international business development. The ripple effects continued expanding, creating opportunities for thousands of individuals whose talents have been systematically overlooked by traditional recruitment and development systems. Most significantly, the experience had fundamentally changed both participants' understanding of human potential and social responsibility. Thomas had learned to see beyond surface appearances and social roles, recognizing that exceptional capabilities exist everywhere, waiting only for recognition and opportunity. Amara had reclaimed her rightful place in academic and professional spheres while maintaining connection to communities often excluded from such opportunities. Their story became a testament to the transformative power of genuine curiosity, respectful engagement, and the courage to challenge assumptions about worth and capability. The hotel lobby remained unchanged, but the lives it had touched continued expanding in ever-widening circles of possibility. Years later, the Amsterdam Grand Hotel featured a small plaque in its lobby commemorating the conversation that had transformed multiple lives and organizations. Amara, now Dr. Amara Okafor, had completed her PhD while building an international reputation as an expert in multilingual business communication. Her consulting firm worked with corporations worldwide, helping them recognize and develop talent regardless of its initial presentation. Thomas had become an advocate for inclusive hiring practices, speaking at conferences about the business imperative of looking beyond traditional credentials to find exceptional capabilities. Their partnership had evolved into a friendship built on mutual respect and shared commitment to expanding opportunities for overlooked talent. The programs they had initiated together had grown into a global network of organizations committed to talent recognition and development across traditional social boundaries. Universities partnered with service industries to identify and support interrupted academic careers. Corporations implemented screening processes designed to recognize multilingual capabilities and cross-cultural expertise among all employees, not just those in traditional professional roles. The movement had generated scholarly research, policy changes, and cultural shifts that continued expanding access to opportunity for previously marginalized communities. Their story had been documented in business schools as a case study in talent recognition and organizational innovation. Students learned about the vast resources that remain untapped when societies rely solely on conventional pathways to identify and develop human potential. The research emerging from their collaboration had influenced academic theory about language, culture, and professional development. International business practices had evolved to better recognize and utilize the diverse capabilities that exist within global organizations, leading to improved outcomes and expanded opportunities for individuals from all backgrounds. The lobby where their paths had crossed remained a symbol of possibility, a reminder that transformative encounters can occur anywhere, at any time, when individuals approach each other with genuine curiosity and respect. The conversation that began with recognition of Dutch language fluency had become a catalyst for systemic change, proving that small moments of authentic human connection can generate profound and lasting transformation. Their legacy continued through the thousands of individuals who had found new opportunities because two people had chosen to see beyond surface appearances to recognize the extraordinary potential that exists within every human being. Amara's journey from invisible service worker to recognized expert became a catalyst for systemic change, proving that extraordinary potential exists everywhere, waiting only for recognition and opportunity. Their story reminds us that true wisdom lies in approaching every encounter with curiosity rather than assumption, discovering the remarkable capabilities that flourish even in unexpected circumstances. How many brilliant minds remain hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with the courage to truly see and hear them?